you for joining us this morning. It's 8:35, and it's the Finance and Physical Resources Committee. Thanks for coming here today. So our first item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment? All right, seeing none, our next item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
Motion. Second.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Next item, number 3, comes from the 17th Circuit Court. It's the request to add 3 juvenile probation officer positions to the 17th Circuit Court Family Division.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to add 3 juvenile probation officer positions and to transfer $85,768 from the Circuit Court's general fund budget and appropriate $128,654 of grant funding from the State of Michigan Department of Health and Human Services budget to the 2022-23 Child Care Fund budget. 17th Circuit Court is requesting the addition of 3 juvenile probation officers to manage the increasing case volumes for youth. The Raise the Age legislation is a significant factor leading to this request based on current data, 4-year average statistics, and caseload increases. 2022 saw a significant increase in juvenile filings. Individual juvenile referrals to the court were up 47% when compared to 2021 and up 20% when compared to the previous 4-year average. Petitions increased by 45% and cases being dealt with on formal dockets were up 58%. Case intake is up 57% from 2021 and up 38% compared to a 4-year average. The state of Michigan funds 60% of the cost for juvenile probation officers who meet certain requirements, including maintaining a maximum of 20 cases per probation officer. Currently, 8 juvenile probation officers with caseloads of 19 or 20 youth are eligible for the state subsidy, and 2 juvenile probation officers with caseloads exceeding 20 youth are 100% funded by the county general fund. With the addition of 3 juvenile probation officers, the 2 juvenile probation officers with more than 20 assigned youth can reduce their caseload to become eligible for state subsidy, and other juvenile probation officers can continue to maintain a caseload at or below 20 youth. The cost savings associated with the new 60% state subsidy for the 2 juvenile probation officers who are currently 100% funded by the county's general fund will fully offset the county's portion of the cost for the 3 additional juvenile probation officers. This item was reviewed and approved by the Legislative and Human Resources Committee at its February 14, 2023 meeting.
All right, thanks, Al. Is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wood. Is there support? Support by Commissioner Kallman. All right, any questions or comments on this? We do have staff here that will be able to address any questions. Yes, Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Chair. Just kind of a sidebar, I know we've got some issues with the schools as far as truancy issues, and we're looking for people, resources to help address that. Is any of this tied together at all through our probation department, or is there any connections or any collaboration on that issue?
We have Andy Thalhammer here from the 17th Circuit Court.
Morning, Andy.
Sure. Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, I would say that there is collaboration. If you remember, we did apply for a grant and received a grant where we're going to be actually having a probation officer deal exclusively with truancy cases. Yeah, I mean, we're all kind of under the same building and supervisors are similar. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of coordination going on between these 2 efforts. But these kids, truancy are considered a status offense. It would not be illegal if the youth were not a juvenile. So those usually are dealt with in a more diversion path, so they don't become a formal case, which turns into what we have now. So these 3 probation officers that we need are strictly to handle more of the high-end, formal caseload that we're dealing with right now.
That sounds good. I figured that was probably the case. Are you guys pretty satisfied with the resources you have for the truancy issue right now? Because one leads to the other, if you got kids not
Yeah, for sure. No, we're very pleased to have the grant to address truancy, for sure. Yeah.
Any other questions at all for Andy on this item? I do have one question too. With the addition of the probation officers, do you maybe you can't answer this, but envision any additional support needed by like the prosecutor's office at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if they would need something. I mean, obviously, yeah, I mean, they would obviously be better off to answer that. But I do know that, yeah, we do rely on them for all the case filings that we have. I mean, that's work for them as well, so.
Okay, so, all right, well, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes. Yes. All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. All right, next item on the agenda comes from the Department of Public Works. It's the Eagle Recycling Infrastructure Grant for the North Kent Transfer Station.
Action requested, accept $499,999 in grant funds from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, EGLE, Materials Management Division designated for the Kent County Department of Public Works to install a baler at the Kent County North Kent Transfer Station. Summary of request. DPW has been notified by the Michigan Department by EGLE that it will receive an EGLE Recycling Infrastructure Grant in the amount of $499,990. This grant is for baler equipment to direct bale old corrugated cardboard at the North Kent Transfer Station and eliminate the cost of transporting loose OCC to the Recycling and Education Center to be processed. DPW will leverage the EGLE grant funding with $385,001 in 2024 CIP funds. The baling equipment will be installed in the existing transfer station building that will be converted to a recycling drop-off facility to improve recycling access, reduce double handling of residential recyclables, and operational costs for residential and commercial recycling at the North Kent Transfer Station. Per the county's fiscal policy on grants, contracts, and donations, the board has granted the Finance and Physical Resources Committee authorization to approve acceptance of grant funding over $25,000. The grant period is March 1, 2023 through September 30, 2024. Corporate Counsel has reviewed and approved all documents as to form.
Thanks, Al. Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner McLeod. Is there support? Support by Commissioner Oliver King. All right, questions or comments? I will say that this has already gone through the Board of Public Works and was supported unanimously, but it just comes to us because of the grant funding over $25,000. So with the growth on the north end of the county, it's important to have the expanded facility up there, and this equipment will be very helpful. So any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes. Yes. All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda comes from the Department of Public Works as well. It's the Eagle Recycling Infrastructure Grant for the Recycling and Education Center.
All right. I'm almost there. There we go. Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve the plan of, oh, whoops. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. I gotta get up there.
Number 5.
Do you have it right there? Okay. All right. Action requested, accept $406,000 in grant funds from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, EGLE, Materials Management Division designated for the Kent County Department of Public Works to install robotic sorting equipment at the Kent County Recycling and Education Center. DPW has been notified by the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy that it will receive an EGLE Recycling Infrastructure Grant in the amount of $406,000. This grant is for robotic sorting equipment to automate line sorting at the Recycling and Education Center, addressing chronic staff shortages and the rising cost of temporary labor. DPW will leverage the EGLE grant funding with $174,000 in 2023 CIP funds. The robotic sorting equipment will reduce labor costs for processing residential recycling with a projected return on investment under 12 months. Per the county's fiscal policy on grants, contracts, and donations, the board has granted the Finance and Physical Resources Committee authorization to approve acceptance of grant funding over $25,000. The grant period is March 1, 2023 through September 30, 2024. Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents as to form prior to signature.
Thanks, Al. Is there a motion for this item?
Support.
I didn't hear who moved that. Oh, Commissioner Hildebrand. All right, and supported by Commissioner Sparks. Questions or comments on this item? Again, this item was also approved by the Board of Public Works last month or earlier this month. I'm pretty excited about this. This will help sort a lot of items throughout our recycling center, and it really helps with staffing. It's been a tricky thing to find staff that is willing to do this job, and it will save us money probably within the first year. It'll pay for itself. So, any other questions or comments? All right, we do have Dar in hand if there's anything you need. Okay, so all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda comes from the Drain Commission office. It's the Wabasis Lake level and Five Lakes level.
Action requested, recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve the plan of the Drain Commissioner to assess the applicable Wabasis Lake level and Five Lakes Lake level property owners and instruct the Commissioner to perform any further services that are necessary related to maintaining its normal lake level consistent with the requirements of the Michigan Inland Lake Level Act 307. Summary of requests. The Board of Commissioners approved the assessment project as per Resolution 04-21-22-54 and 04-21-22-55. And the Drain Commissioner is requesting Board approval of the assessment to the property owners in accordance with the Lake Level Act 451 of 1994, Section 324.3714.3, subsection 3. The County Board must approve the special assessment roll by resolution. The Drain Commissioner conducted a hearing on the special assessment on January 31, 2023, for the Drain Commissioner to receive objections and comments on the roll and confirm it. Notices were sent to each property and municipality along with published notices in the Grand Rapids Press newspaper 2 times. Notice, agenda, computation of costs, and special assessment roll was also placed on our Drain Commissioner website. There was no attendance or objections presented at the Five Lakes Lake Level hearing. There was no attendance at the Wabasis Lake Level hearing, and 1 written objection. The written objection does not remove them from an assessment due to their condo master deed. For the special assessment rolls, there are charges to the County of Kent properties. Wabasis Lake level for Wabasis properties, the special assessment is $20,395.25. Five Lakes Lake level for Honor Camp property at 13064 Sandyside Drive, parcel 410802202028, a lake level assessment for $1,009.38.
Thanks, Al. Is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
Moved. Is there support? Support. Any questions or comments? Commissioner McLeod?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question about the objection that was received on this. I just wanted to know what the process was for, either homeowners or associations. This one sounds like it was from a condo association. What's the process to hear objections and to allow them, the opportunity to voice their concerns, I guess, about this assessment?
We have Ken Yunker here today, our Drain Commissioner. Thanks.
We are required to hold a public meeting, which we did. I think that was January 31. And they could come in and voice their concern or whatever objection they had. These people couldn't make it to the meeting, so they sent their grievance by mail through letter. Their grievance was because they pay association fees, they shouldn't have to pay the tax. But that's not the way the law is written. They're part of a condo association. The condo has public access to the lake, so thus everybody in that condo has a responsibility to a percentage of the maintenance cost.
Okay, is there like an appeal process? I'm just wondering what the communication process
This is it.
This is it?
There's
Okay.
no more court appeal processes. That public meeting we held was their time to come forward. And now what the board decides, what they agree on, will be final.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Merchant?
Thank you. I have a question. So for the Wabasis Lake level, you had a breakdown per property, basically, of what they were assessed. I don't see one for Five Lakes, and it looks like it's a significantly higher number. Do you have one that you can send to me?
I will have Angie, she's ill, so she has not been in the last couple days.
Okay.
I will have her send that to you.
Okay, and then could you also go through what was done for Five Lakes? It was like 270,000, so I'm just looking for an overview of everything that was done with that.
Wasn't that sent?
It just has the cost
Project.
breakdown for what, for construction costs and stuff, but it doesn't say what it did.
There was a resolution that the board approved before we did the work. That was back in March.
Okay.
So you should have all that, but just for your memory sake, the back side of that lake, that would be the south side of that lake, is Hall Street, is the name of the road. That's built on a berm that holds the water back on those lakes. The outlet's on the north side, and then it's a regular gated dam. So we've been inspecting that, but the backside berm was not in our records as part of the dam. It's an embankment. When Eagle was doing some property inspection just south of that, we were with them, and we noticed water that was coming through that berm at a pretty fast clip. And then realized that this is part of the dam that creates those 5 lakes, which after doing the soil testing, this thing was probably within any day of failing. The soils were that bad. So we had to get that embankment shored up and tile in there for drainage so that we could stabilize it and prevent any kind of failure. That's generally, that's in a nutshell what we got into. So that's been done, and now the lake level. Through the lake level law, the people on that lake have to pay for that improvement.
Any other questions? Commissioner Coleman?
Thank you, Chair. Just following up, Commissioner McLeod asked the question I was going to ask about the general process for these folks that submitted the objection, but I'm curious. I feel for their situation, the drama apparently going on with their homeowners association, but they said that they don't have any lake ownership. Why are they assessed? Is it just because they're part of the homeowners association, or do they not understand the?
It's a condo association, which they're a member of, and they are in and of themselves their own governing body. So any taxes, any assessments, special assessments, anything that has to be done on that property is their responsibility.
So the condo association is splitting it amongst all their
Correct.
members. Okay, thank you.
Correct, yep.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Antor?
Good morning, Ken.
Good morning.
I know you've been through a few of these special assessments, and, we go through the notification process and so forth. Are you finding that after the notices go out, we don't hear anything, the work is done, then people come out of the woodwork saying, hey, what are you doing? And if that's the case, I don't know if that's the case. I'm suspecting some people they start complaining after the fact because they didn't know about the work being done. One, is that the case? And two, is there anything, do we have any flaws in our notification process? I'm looking at it. I'm not so sure I would be aware of this either, because Grand Rapids Press I don't really read, and the other things are kind of an internal thing. Is there anything we could do maybe a little bit differently as far as notification? Or are we doing the bare minimum?
Not really. The law is pretty specific what I have to do, and you can't get more direct than sending a letter to each individual. Now, it's up to each individual whether or not they open that mail.
I missed that.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Every project has to be notified to each homeowner, to each address. And that mailing list comes from the local government unit because they have the most
Right.
accurate tax roll
I missed that.
assessment. Yeah. You can't get better than that.
But you could go knock on.
No, I don't think you want to pay me to do that.
Your salary, aren't you?
Yeah, well, salary's going to go up if I got to do that.
All right, Commissioner Oliver King.
Hello.
Hello.
Just a point of interest, how much notice, time span is that letter sent out? Like 30 days before?
I don't have that detail on the top of my head, but it's roughly right around 20 days is usually the number on most all of our notification processes. Yeah, they got plenty of time.
Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. One follow-up question. So just to follow up on Commissioner Merchant's question, since the detail wasn't provided here, what's the number of homes and properties, just the average number of homes and properties that's impacted by the 5 lakes, and just a overall, maybe just an average assessment that each would be receiving?
When we're looking, again, I'm just going to go by rough memory. At my age, it isn't real clear all the time. But I think I remember there's about 120 properties around those lakes, and the average assessment was right around $400.
All right, thank you.
We're double checking. I do believe that stuff was included in the packet. You just have to scroll down.
It's not the detail.
It's not that same detail?
It doesn't have the detail.
Okay. Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick follow-up, Commissioner Yonker. At the hearing, who is the hearing with you in your office? Where do they go and appeal? I've never been to or seen one of these, so I'm just curious what that looks like.
All right, well, the lake level is different than drains. So under lake level law, we got to have a public meeting,
Okay.
a formal meeting. That meets the Open Meetings Act and the whole
And
spiel.
who's meeting? I guess that's
The
what.
Drain Commission.
The Drain Commission?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Good, okay, thank you, that's all, I was just curious, thanks.
Now, if you want, it is your lake level, if you want to take that responsibility, I'm sure the law would allow me to transfer that over.
I think we'll keep that where it's most appropriate, thank you.
I'll invite you, Commissioner. All right, all right.
Well, we appreciate what you do, and you're good at it, so we'll let you continue to handle this. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda comes from the Health Department. It's the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, non-community water supply, long-term monitoring campgrounds and public swimming pools.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve the agreement from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, EGLE, to appropriate $237,980 to the 2022-23 Health Fund budget and to authorize the Administrative Health Officer to sign the grant agreement and for the Board to approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary of request. The Health Department has been awarded $328,710 in funding from EGLE to support the non-community water supply, drinking water, long-term monitoring, campground, and public swimming pool programs for October 1, 2022 through September 30, 2023. Of the total award, $90,730 has already been appropriated to the 2022-23 Health Fund budget. This request is to appropriate the remaining $237,980 to the 2022-23 Health Fund budget. Several local health departments participated with EGLE in a review of the programs funded through this agreement. An analysis concluded that the programs were significantly underfunded when compared to the cost of operations. EGLE secured additional sustained funding to support the programs provided by the local health departments. The $237,980 increase received by the health department is a result of this work. Non-community water supplies in Kent County provide water to approximately 82,000 people. This includes 7,600 at schools and 1,600 at daycare/children's camps. Since the institution of the revised total coliform rule in 2016, as well as following changes to PFAS and the lead-copper rule, Kent County has seen a nearly 40% increase in water samples. Increased sampling has led to increased staff resources to respond to monitoring violations and required follow-up on corrective actions. The additional funding will be used to support 2 FTE sanitarian positions, 0.3 FTE of a clerk 3 position, supplies, and overhead costs. Assistant Corporate Counsel has reviewed and approved the grant agreement as to form.
Thanks, Al. Is there a motion for this item?
Motion.
Moved by Commissioner Sparks. Is there support? Support. Support by Commissioner Green. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Green.
I had a question, likely for Director London. Thanks, Adam. I was just curious, so when we define non-community, what all would be included in that?
Yeah, so, thank you, Commissioner, that's a good question. These are all the water supplies that serve those businesses, those communities that are not on a municipal water supply. So think of all the restaurants, the churches, the schools, they use a well for the primary source of water.
Okay, that's great. That's what I kind of assumed from reading between the lines, so that's helpful. And the reason, just to clarify, that there's no statute that's requiring us to do the same kind of testing regularly that we would do, or for them to report that a municipal system would report, which is why this is important, right? Just to kind of summarize it.
Correct.
And is the county required to play a proactive role in that outside of this? I guess, is that a statutory thing, or are we doing this to kind of go above and beyond to try to detect these things before we might have an issue?
Well, they are complying with state law, the Safe Drinking Water Act, which requires them to test their water and to have certain technologies and construction in place to assure a safe drinking water for their consumers. We do the regulatory portion of that to make sure those samples are taken on the schedule according to the law, and to make sure that those systems are in place and are functioning properly. We do sanitary surveys of those systems on a regular basis. There's a lot of work that we do in partnership with them. It's their responsibility primarily as the supplier of water to make sure they have someone trained, certified to do the day-to-day work on site.
Okay, thank you. Just as a comment, I know that this is critical stuff, because I know when we had the PFAS situation first come up in Plainfield Township in Belmont, we detected it at the Belmont Armory, which, obviously they were not on municipal water. So sometimes we can identify problems a little bit earlier. So anyway, that's just a comment, but thank you. That's
Yeah,
helpful.
and to that point, when those problems are identified, we're working with them side by side to help figure out what is behind the problem and how to solve it.
Great. Thanks, Adam.
All right, any other questions or comments? Yeah, Commissioner McLeod.
Chair, thank you, Director London. So just a quick question. So are you seeing any maybe consistent themes in some of the testing that's being done in these systems at the moment? Or, I know that there was PFAS previously. Is there anything that's popping up that we might want to know as a concern that's coming down the line?
Nothing out of the usual at this point. We continue to see issues with coliform bacteria, which is an indicator that some sort of contamination, a basic contamination has happened. That's not uncommon. When we identify those, we work with the supplier to make sure that disinfection happens quickly and the problem is resolved. We do have some increases in the lead and copper rules. Some more stringent requirements are in place now. That's kind of working itself out right now. So we're still trying to find where there may be instances of lead or copper exceedances, and then working with those providers to make sure that those are addressed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Antor.
Seeing any type of increase trending as far as nitrates in the water? It's been something I've been in some of these outlying areas because of the agricultural, practices and so on and so forth. We're spreading biosolids now. Has there been an increase in that arena at all?
Good question. I haven't observed any in the sampling we do for residential on-site wells. We have historically had actually, I think, greater problems with nitrates because we had many wells that were shallow in nature and didn't penetrate a confining layer of clay to provide some protection against contaminations happening from the surface from things like what you described. That's a good question, and I could pull more data regarding nitrates if you're interested in that.
I kind of am.
Okay.
I'm just mesmerized by what happens underneath dirt here. Where, these aquifers, if you got a clay layer that keeps stuff out, maybe in this section, the same aquifer 2 miles down the road, do they have that same clay layer, and can it leach in there and affect everything? I don't know how any of that stuff works, but it seems like we would see an increase in nitrates just based on the way we do things these days. And yeah, if you could see if there's any trends, because that's a really important issue, especially when you're dealing with kids, I think, and infants, right?
It
Nitrates.
is, especially with infants with, it's called blue baby syndrome.
Right.
Revolving. Their ability to uptake oxygen. I can find out more information in general about nitrate concentrations that we see. I think that we'll find that you're right, there are some changes and variables in how materials are applied at the surface level. I think the improvements to wall construction are probably offsetting that, but I can find out more and get back
Yeah,
to you.
that'd be interesting, and not right away or anything, but just in your travels, if you find out something along those lines, see if it's ticking up or not.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is miscellaneous. Is there any commissioner miscellaneous? Nothing today? All right. We are adjourned, and our next meeting will be Tuesday, March 7, 2023, at 8:30 a.m. Thank you.